This remarkable painting is the loan from the Rijksmuseum to our series of paintings this year called Masterpiece a Month, Presiding Genius. We've invited famous institutions around the world to lend one glorious masterpiece for 1 month only. And this is the masterpiece for June. It's several things. What is this painting? There are several answers to that. First of all, it is what it says on the label. This is Rembrandt's son Titus, dressed as a monk, by Rembrandt van Rijn, probably Holland's most famous artist. It was painted in 1660. So what else is it? It's a masterclass in painting. 1660, we're entering Rembrandt's last decade, and at this point, there's probably never been a more skillful, more extraordinary manipulator of oil paint on canvas than Rembrandt van Rijn. So this is painting at its best. And if you look at it, it's so surprising. There's so little colour there. These are all earth colours. This is umber, these are siennas, these are browns. It could be, in lesser hands, mushroom soup. But it's not. It glows with life. He is a master of brown, but there's much more than brown in there. There are touches of red, orange, a little bit of green, just to give you the sense of a landscape, because the figure is leaning against a grassy bank. But otherwise, it's brown, this luminous, moon-like face at its centre. Extraordinary examples of painting here. Notice what looks like stitching. It'll be a kind of blanket stitch around a very coarse Franciscan habit. The hood there is lined with stitching, and Rembrandt has achieved that by turning the brush round and scraping into the wet paint with the end of his brush. No doubt he will have been scrabbling away with his fingers as well. This area here looks detailed. It evokes a leafy bank. But much of that area there is actually bare ground. He's left the ground to shine through the paint, and that somehow evokes the actual presence of leaves and bank, better than if he had painted it in great detail. So it's extraordinary manipulation of paint and of colour. What else is it? Well, it's not really a portrait. This is a character head. It's a tronie, as the Dutch called it, very much like our own Girl at a Window. The idea being that in this painting you have some kind of expression of character. Rembrandt does this time and again. And in fact, the famous series of self-portraits, which are often held up as a kind of mirror of honesty and truth to reality, are very often, in fact, character studies, the character in question being the one that was most easily to hand for Rembrandt just by looking in the mirror. Here you have an essay in an expression. It's, in a way, it's the opposite of the expression of a girl at a window who looks at you very boldly, very intensely, who knows you very well. This figure is looking inward, looking down, possibly at a lantern on the ground, who knows? Something is lighting that face. So it's an essay in what does a face look like when it's thinking about spiritual matters. What else is it? It's a painting of a monk. Seems obvious to say that. And actually, in Baroque terms, this is a common enough genre. In Spain, artists like Zurbarán, in Naples, Ribera, Velázquez, in Italy, Caravaggio, they all painted this kind of painting, evoking the spirituality of religion through its most obvious representative, the monk in society. The habit is Franciscan, a very popular order throughout, from the Middle Ages onwards. And so, yes, it's a monk. That's fine. The hat, which to a modern eye might look a bit Gandalf, I suspect might actually indicate that it's the Capuchin order of the Franciscan monks. They were often mocked for their long pointed hoods. But I suspect that that doesn't matter. It's a prop, it's a costume, and it's there to give context to the face. What else is it? Well, the face tells you everything, because we recognize this face. This is the face of Titus van Rijn, Rembrandt's only son. Titus was his fourth child, but 3 of his children died within weeks of their birth. Titus was born in 1641, which makes him 19 here in this painting. Titus's life must have been difficult. Saskia, Rembrandt's wife and Titus's mother, died very soon after Titus was born. In 1656, Rembrandt went bankrupt. This wasn't a starving in a garret romantic kind of bankruptcy. This was to do with having spent too much money on a house. It's a very modern scenario. Rembrandt bought larger than his means and then spent his means on collecting. He had an enormous collection of paintings, marbles, pieces of armour, all sorts of things. And in 1656, he finally had to face reality. He couldn't pay his mortgage, sold his collection. Which brings us to 1660, the date of this painting. In 1660, Rembrandt was at rock bottom. The Painters Guild in Amsterdam had declared that an artist in his position, effectively a bankrupt, could not trade on his own account. Effectively, the Guild of Painters was taking away Rembrandt's means of supporting himself. Enter Titus. Titus and Hendrickje Stoffels, who was Rembrandt's mistress, set up a company to employ Rembrandt. This was the only way he could earn a living. So here you have what is effectively the face of Rembrandt's son, but also, interestingly, his employer. Titus had effectively rescued his father and given him a way forward. So, what does this all add up to? Well, it's a recognizable face. Yes, it's Titus, but I think we must assume that Titus is used simply because he's the nearest available model. He was given the monk's habit, and by posing him as a monk, Rembrandt was very carefully producing something that was saleable. This kind of thing was coming through the Amsterdam markets all the time, from other artists, from Spain, from Italy. He could have found a market. Bear in mind that although Holland was a Protestant country, there were many Catholics there, often worshipping in almost secrecy. To a Catholic, this could be a portrait of St. Francis. It only lacks a halo. And Rembrandt would have been aware of this. So you have to think of this as a saleable commodity. But the fact that it is his son's face at such an important moment when Titus has actually done everything for his father means that there's some extra meaning in there. There is, I think we can see, a lot of affection there. This is a handsome face. A benign face, a gentle face, and this is confirmed by the other portraits that exist of Titus. But ultimately, what can it be? I think, to sum it up, this is one of the greatest portrayals of humanity's capacity for an inner life that I've ever seen. Titus looks inwards. And because of the costume, we know that he's probably thinking of religious consolation. All human beings have this capacity, even when everything in the world has been taken from them. I think Rembrandt's reminding us of that.